Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odessa, and we are starting today with the development of inclusive education and support system for children with special educational needs in Odesa region during martial law. Our speaker is Oleksandr Lonchak, Director of the Department of Education and Science of the Odesa Regional Military Administration. Good afternoon, Oleksandr. Let's start with the information that you can share with us as for the development of inclusive education and support system for children with special educational needs. Good afternoon, Evgen. I'd like to welcome all citizens of Odessa. Every year, the number of children with special needs has been increasing, and we make steps for the development of inclusive education and creation of the barrier-free environment for children in need of our protection. The organization of educational process in the martial law is the new challenge for our staff, especially with those who work with the children with special needs and their parents. I'd like to note that this year, more than 6,000 children with special needs receive services in the educational institutions in our region. Despite the martial law, the number of groups with inclusive education and the number of children with special needs have been increasing. There are around 2,000 classes with inclusive education for 2,700 children with special needs. This is for this year. And before the full-scale invasion, we had around 1,600 classes for 2,200 children with special needs. So this year we can see that the number of children has been increased by 500%. As for the preschool institutions, 314 inclusive groups for 555 children with special needs. And when it comes to vocational schools, there are 68 children with special needs. And we have done a lot, and we are proud of this, that today children with special educational needs can study at vocational schools to get specific professions in the agricultural area, in the catering and IT. To support the educational process during inclusive education, more than 2,000 assistant teachers are involved. For the short period of time, we were able to open 40 inclusive resource centers, and I'd like to note that the network of such centers is one of the biggest in Ukraine. For the methodological support of the inclusive resource center and also to support the specialists for that working at the centers, under the umbrella of Odesa Academy, we have opened the Odesa Regional Resource Center to support inclusive education. The armed military aggression of the Russian Federation has affected the activities of our resource centers, who were turned into the psychological support of children, young people with educational needs, and their parents since the first day of the full-scale invasion. Taking into consideration the necessity of support of children with special educational needs, the Odesa Regional Resource Center and other centers have been introducing curricula for blind children, children with physical needs, etc. There are different types of projects like Підтримай дитину, support children, the fairy world, казковий світ, etc. Our administration has been implementing a new project for the barrier-free environment. This is the mobile resource center. There are 9 special vehicles, which are real offices equipped with all needed equipment and materials for different doctors be able to work with children, like psychologists, defectologists, etc. And also for mental and physical assessment of children with special needs. These special automobiles have been provided to the centers that need them. At the moment, Mayakivsky, Podilsky, Sofyanovsky, and Dobroslavsky exclusive resource centers have been actively and successfully implementing the mentioned project. And other areas like Tatar Bunara, Berezivka, Mikhailovki resources centers will also get such cars, such automobiles. And I would like to bring that fact to the attention of the parents of children with special educational needs that can provide services to your children. And I'd like to say that such services are provided free of charge. From the 1st September of this year, following the initiative of the First Lady Olena Zelensky, a lot of attention has been paid to the mental health of the students and school children, and all types of educational institutions have been involved in the proactive programs for mental health. And this is not about the mental and psychological security of all the participants of educational process, but also the possibility to quickly respond to emergencies. To deal with the anxiety, there will be special areas for psychological relief and for games. We have already introduced 25 mediatheks and more than 200 resource rooms, which are especially needed by children with special educational needs. So on the 12th of September, in the city of Odesa, there was presented the concept of ensuring security and safety in the educational institutions developed by the fund of the President of Ukraine to support education, science, and sport, and also with the involvement of the UNESCO. Odesa is one of the pilot regions to implement all elements of this concept for safety and security. This project will be implemented in Balkivska and Davidopolska amalgamated communities. The resource centers are actively involved in the project that has been implemented for the project of early intervention. This is especially needed to coordinate work with children, with families with children with special educational needs, or for those areas where the lack of professionals. And of course, when it comes to the development of inclusive education, we can see challenges. One of them, this is the lack of professionals in corrective education. These are rehabilitologists and other specialists to provide additional activities for children with special educational needs. And also, I would like to use this opportunity to address now the graduates of the educational institutions to plan actually to learn to train to become such professionals. We can also provide jobs to IDPs who have the background needed. So please refer to the Department of Education and Science, and we will be able to provide jobs to you in different educational institutions to work with children with special educational needs. Taking into consideration these issues, we closely cooperate with the higher educational institutions. So this is the Southern Ukrainian Educational Pedagogical University. To have more such professionals, it is very important for children with special educational needs to be needed to be part of the team. That's why we do everything possible to develop inclusive education in the Odesa region. We will continue creating environment with the mutual support. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for the information provided. I have questions with children with special educational needs. I know that previously there was such a problem that children were reluctant to send their children to the inclusive classes, and they turned more to individual form. That situation was before 2017. Because we had these special medical commissions for establishing diagnosis for children, and they were the individual form of education. But in 2017, the development of inclusive education started, and as far as I remember, back then in our region, 70 inclusive classes for 100 children emerged. And of course, that was the parents worried about how the educational process would be organized there. But we then saw gradual development of inclusive education, the source centers, and the development and training of the professionals. And they also established levels of support from 1 to 5, and also offer the curriculum for children to study at school. The professionals from these resource centers support teachers to be able to provide services needed by the special educational needs. And there is also the assistant teacher supporting a child during this process. Now parents know that we can provide quality services. The children can be more socialized, communicate with other children, and I believe that this is the right approach, because children should be socialized, communicate with their other children. And I know that there was also the problem, that was the resistance of community of teachers. And parents sometimes did not agree for their classes to have such children, and they say that such children could have more focus of teachers' intentions than other children. Do you see such situations at the moment? No, and we can see the number of children in our schools, like more than 2,000 children at the secondary educational schools, and so we can see the perception of such children, and our teachers know how to work with such children, so we don't see this problem, of course. Of course, in our territory, we have specialized schools, with the for the children with the special educational needs, those who have some sensory inabilities, like hearing disabilities, and those children that need more corrections. We've received question from our colleagues. This is the editor of the Intent media. And in the Facebook, there was such a story when a child received certificate from schools 75, and with that certificate, the children cannot now be enrolled at the vocational school. Thank you very much for the question. I was not aware of that situation. But those children with special educational needs that study at schools receiving the same knowledge as other children with no special educational needs, and they receive the certificate as other children, and they can easily enroll at vocational and other educational institutions. If there is such a problem, please share this information with me, and I will deal with that. Have you seen such situations? If we see them, we respond quickly to settle the issue. Those schools with children with special educational needs, as far as I understand, receive additional subsidies to buy equipment. Yes, till 2022, there was the subsidy subvention to pay salary to assistant teachers, and if the funds are left, these funds can be spent for special media tech rooms. So, and these resource rooms for children with special educational needs. So, if there is some money unspent, it can be spent for the equipment. There are 5 levels of support. Yes, from the 1st to 5th. The lowest one is the first one. A question not related to our topic, but that was quite a well-known story in Kiev's community, where school children just put the head of one of the boy in the toilet, and he was naked. And what is the result of the investigation that was initiated? If you follow my Facebook page, you can get information from there. I have already published the results of investigation. The commission worked since the 27th of September, and that accident was on the 25th of September, and the representatives of the Department of Education were involved in investigation, and it has been established that the operation of school is inadequate. And so the Commission has identified violations there. And also, the head of the school has been brought to the disciplinary liability, responsibility, as well as the people, the person responsible for behavioral issues there. And the guy who was the initiator of that incident is on the sick leave, so we are waiting for him to recover. And also the court will decide that, and the son of the local teacher was one of the initiator, yes, and the teacher is on a sick leave, but the school is open. So this is the situation. That is a difficult situation, but there was the investigation conducting, and the results have been already published. The question about the shelters in the Odesa region. How many schools are still not prepared? As for shelters, we started these activities in 2022 in spring. And as for the last school year, only like 100 plus schools were opened on the 1st of September offline, and now the numbers are improved. Also, there are 80 schools that are still on the distant remote format, but other schools, they work in the blended and online format. As for the online format, these are most schools of the city of Odessa. We have 57 such schools. And as for the blended format, this is due to the fact that the shelter cannot host all school children. And but for the other schools, they are open online. As for shelters, the work is ongoing, and we've got the subsidy from the state to construct 4 more shelters, and for 5 there is the reconstruction now and the capital repair. So those schools without shelters are closed. Those schools who don't have shelters, they are opened, but in the online format. But we also offer parents other schools closer to them, and they can just send their children there. But from the next year, in 2024, there will be an additional subsidy to launch to have shelters with those schools that don't have them. So the schools should already start preparing to that to get this subsidies. One more on topic. This is CCV in educational institutions. What is the situation with that issue in the Odesa region? Secondary educational institutions in online format have already installed CCTV at the entry, and they are also they have the special buttons to call for the police and guards. But we are not going to stop there, because for the next educational year, we will have web cameras and also the gates and some other security elements that envisages and Baltka and Davidopolska communities are involved in the project for safety and security. They will be the pilot regions, and other schools will follow them shortly. There are also active discussions about installing CCTVs in classes. As far as I understand, there are no schools with the cameras in classes. If parents agree to that, then these cameras could be installed. Do we have such schools? Yes, of course. I don't remember the numbers. If needed, I will be able to provide this information later. I know that a lot of people are against this so-called know-how because they say that this violates privacy. What is your personal attitude to CCTV in classes? As a parent, I fully support that, but all parents should agree to that. But I support such solution. What is the key argument of parents that are against that? I cannot say that, and so, but we would like to see the children, their children. But teachers, they feel embarrassed about that. As for cell phones, there are also discussions, and there are some proposals just for children to leave them somewhere in a separate place during their classes. And there are those who support that, who are against them. This is for the Educational Council to decide, and also the decision of the parent communities. If such decision is made for a class, and they could offer such solution. How many educational institutions have been damaged because of the Russia's shelling? 63 educational institutions, 22 have been reconstructed or renewed, repaired. But in Sergeyevska school and Lyceum in Dachna have been damaged the most. As for other institutions, the windows were broken there, but now we are just reinstalling windows in educational institutions. There are no mass ruins. It's only in Dachna Lyceum and Sergeyevska school. Thank you very much, Oleksandr, for joining us today. I'd like to remind that our speaker was Oleksandr Lonchak, Director of the Department of Education and Science of the Odesa Regional Military Administration, and we will continue at 1 p.m.